Hi everyone. I wanted to share a PowerPoint presentation with you on organizational structure. As we continue to develop our philosophies in coaching and leadership, it's also important to understand how to build our program and organizational structure in a way that fits the needs of our student athletes and our communities. When I was going through my administrative services credential, I was involved with a lot of assistant principals, and superintendents. Based on the information that I gathered from them on how they build their organizational structure, I was able to take that and translate into the athletics realm to ensure that our athletics program here at my current school was stable and created a solid foundation for what we were trying to develop within our student athletes. So as we go through this PowerPoint, understand that there's a balance between school and the educational foundation, and also athletics and how that translates to on the field in our overall programs. So here are some applications for school and athletics leaders. Analyze the fundamental structural components of a school district or athletics program in terms of functions, specializations, and interrelationships. Also, align the goals, purposes, and functions of school or athletic organizations with the larger cultural and societal goals, norms, and values. Then employ organizational structures, procedures, and mechanisms to influence a school's or athletics program culture and climate. And here's a key point. Utilize the power of leadership in a way that best matches the educational aims and purposes of the school or athletics program. We're going to come back to this later in the PowerPoint presentation, but understand that in leadership roles, there is power that comes with that. And how you effectively use that power will determine how successful or how structured your organization is. So here's a quote. Knowing an organization's role in society is fundamental to defining its primary purpose, identifying its goals, and structuring the organization in a way that best matches its social function. So when we look at our world today, there are different organizational structures and the purpose that they provide. So when we look here, here's a table that have 4 different type of organizational structures. So, for example, economic. They serve to solve the problems of adaptation or acquiring sufficient resources and adapting to environmental demands. Political. Obviously, we just got done with a presidential, obviously a presidential running, and they operate to achieve basic societal goals. Integrative. Serve to maintain solidarity and unity within the society. For example, courts and social agencies. And then we have pattern maintenance, and this is where we come in. We operate to preserve and transmit a society's culture, schools, athletics, and churches. So the key is understand why we exist. And as we've learned through the first 4 weeks of our course, we're more than just winning or losing games. There's got to be a higher value to what we offer our student athletes and those stakeholders within our programs. This is where we get back into what kind of leader will we be and how will we utilize the power that we have with our leadership. So organizations based upon the kind of power exerted by leadership. So let's look at 3 different types of ways we can use power. Coercive. Actual or threatened application of physical sanctions such as detention, suspension, or expulsion. Similar to athletics, suspending kids from a particular game, kicking them out of practice, for example. Then we have remunerative power. Use of material rewards such as salaries, bonuses, fringe benefits. Obviously, we think of professional sports when it comes to this, and how a higher salary or bonuses within their contract may make them perform better at times or worse with additional pressure. And then we have normative power. So employing symbolic rewards or sanctions such as recommendations, commendations, honors, or grades. So when we look at Zoni's compliance theory, this comes from going through that administrative services credential of a table that they were able to show us. As you can see, on the left column with the primary power used, what is the general reaction that this study showed? You can see with coercive, the general reaction was alienation, and the primary goal was order. And when they analyzed it, there was separation of officers from informer leaders, and informer leaders subordinate to officers. So there's a clear chain of command. Wasn't really the good reaction they're looking for. As you can see on the very left-hand side with our negative and positive reactions, most likely negative. The next one down, the general reaction was calculation. And the primary goal was economic because it was based on salaries and bonuses and special monetary type rewards. And the reactions were mixed, just as what we see within our professional sports as well. And the one on the bottom, normative, the general reaction was commitment. And the primary goal was building that culture that we continue to discuss. And you can see there was cooperation among officers and informal leaders, and high integration between leaders and subordinates. So, when we analyze this type of normative power used could be similar to your transformational or cooperative style type of leadership. Not to say that transactional leadership won't work, just in the end, really grasping and building that culture and positive reinforcement and offering recommendations instead of strict punishments could be the way to go based on Zoni's compliance theory. And now we jump into just 5 ways of organizing, or the basic parts of organization. So Mintzberg developed this based on a school district, which you can see down the left-hand side in terms of how it is structured and the players that come in within it. I basically took what he developed with a school district, transferred that over into an athletics program. So as you can see, the strategic apex, the people that will kind of lead the way in terms of how an athletics program will be structured, will be your principal and athletic director. I can tell you the 5 years I've been athletic director, I have a very highly supportive principal that allows me to do a lot of things on my own in terms of the vision, but she always wants to be involved with it and have an understanding of the vision and the mission behind our program. Our middle line is our head coaches. They are going to play a large role within how the athletics program will be ran. And obviously they are a part of that operating core as well, along with your assistant coaches and volunteer coaches and graduate assistants and those that are involved with the day-to-day activity with our student athletes. Your support staff, depending on the institution that you may be involved with, whether if it's at the youth, high school, or collegiate level, or if you're in travel ball, this may change. I base it off of the high school experience as I'm a high school athletic director. So you're always working with your maintenance department, which is also facilities, your booster club, your parents, and additional stakeholders within your program. You could also add faculty to this list as well, because I think it's very important that you include them in the things you're trying to accomplish as an athletics department, because the more you work together with your faculty as a head coach or as an athletic director, the stronger bond and the better team that you have together to ensure that your student athletes are being put in the best environment to succeed. And the technostructure, that's basically where you're going to gather your information and how you're going to continue to grow your program. So attending conferences, working with other colleagues, and then whatever governing body your athletics program is under. For example, out here in Southern California, we have the CIF Southern Section, and they help drive the direction in terms of how we need to adjust to ensure that we're following correct policies. And just some questions. This slide comes up with some questions in terms of that will come in within your specific team program or an overall athletics program as well. For example, clarity versus creativity. Do people understand their jobs and their purpose? Are they doing what is expected of them? And do they have the flexibility or the creativity to accomplish what they are expected to do with some creativity or flexibility, or is there only a one specific way of doing it? Centralization versus decentralization. Is power distributed appropriately? Is too much power and authority held within the administration, or is too much power and authority delegated? This is something as a leader of your particular program or an athletic director that oversees the entire athletics program, this is an important question to answer. Goal-less versus goal-bound. Are goals relevant to the current conditions? Are goals revisited and revised or recycled? I just sat down with my baseball players a few days ago, and we came up with what are our goals going towards the season in the spring. And we looked at the big picture in terms of what our result-oriented goals would be. But then more importantly, then we took the step back and said, okay, now let's focus in on the process-oriented goals. What can we do to ensure that we have an opportunity to reach those results that we're striving to get to? We do this every single year because every year your team may change and be different. Setting realistic goals is very important, but those process-oriented goals are the ones that we really need to focus in on. Differentiation versus integration. How can the work be divided yet coordinated? I know as an athletic director, it's hard for me at times to let go, to allow my coaches to do certain things, specifically pertaining to eligibility or the athletic training purpose of things with injury regarding concussion, because I know those things are very serious, not only for the health of our student athletes, but also within staying in compliance with CIF and the eligibility piece to ensure that we don't have anybody ineligible. So it's a constant struggle for me to ensure that we do give our coaches that opportunity to be involved with that, but very structured and organized to make sure that we are coordinated in those efforts. And then underused versus overload. Are positions contributing to the organization? Are people being underutilized or overburdened with responsibilities? This comes down to the use of our assistant coaches. Some of us may use captains as big resources for us to help drive players on the field or off the field. Are we underutilizing their skills? Are we overburdening them with the responsibilities, such as a booster club or assistant coaches asking them to do too much? These 5 areas, there's many more areas, but these 5 areas I thought translated well with what I learned through that administrative services credential, with focusing in on the school organizational structure and also how that can translate over into athletics. So in summary, the core values that are modeled by coaches, administrators, parents, students, and other stakeholders form the basis of the program culture. And the greatest challenge for leadership is to guide a team or program towards a shared organizational vision that pulls together the various stakeholders through the recognition of common values and beliefs. As the larger your school gets, as the larger your program grows, this becomes more difficult because you have a lot of student athletes, and a lot of parents, and faculty, administration that might not all be on the same page when it comes down to how you want to structure your particular program or organization. So it's important that you focus on those common values and beliefs to get everyone to try to buy into those as you continue to grow. And that, obviously, to add on to that is It's accomplished through the actions and behaviors of the leaders that mirror the mission and vision of the school athletics program and team. So I hope you can take something from this PowerPoint presentation when you're building your program, or for those that have been coaching for many years, as how you continue to change or adjust your program. Think about some of these key structures, some of these questions that will need to be answered as we continue to build the best programs that we can for our student athletes and stakeholders involved.